and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And Jonathan is sick as hell right now.
I feel like I almost died last night. Yeah,
running a heavy fever. As you guys know, he's in San Francisco right now, and I guess he caught something out there. Not COVID, but something that made us think that we were almost going to miss our very first episode of recording this podcast. But I'm going to be doing a lot of talking this episode. Jonathan, you just hang in there, buddy.
Yeah.
But this episode, we'll be finding out who would win in a fight between the DC villain Prometheus and the Marvel villain Taskmaster. These are two badass villain characters who have the ability to kind of take on new combat information during the course of a fight, making them adaptable and dangerous. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, we're doing this episode now as a lead into next week's episode, in which we'll be reviewing the Black Widow film, which comes out in theaters. So we'll learn all about that movie's villain, Taskmaster, before we watch the film. Before we input the stats and run the simulations for that particular fight, we're going to break down the comic book movie news from the past week, of which we had basically no news. But there was the reveal of Spider-Man's new outfits that he will be wearing in the upcoming Spider-Man No Way Home movie, so we thought we'd discuss those. As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic. And it's that time again, that final time, where Jonathan and I do our final push for our Patreon member drive. If you guys have been listening to us for the past couple of months, you know that we're doing a heavy push for you guys to join our Patreon. We're trying to get to 100 patrons before the time the Black Widow movie comes out, which is actually this week. So this is your guys' very last chance to help us reach that goal. Right now, we're only at about 50 patrons, so I'm a little bit concerned, but not too much because I know that it will only take a small fraction of our listenership to actually help us reach our goal. So guys, if you aren't a patron, please go to patreon.com/dynamicduel. It's linked in the show notes, and help us reach our 100 member goal, because if we don't reach our goal, then Jonathan and I will be putting this show behind a paywall as a means to recompense the lost earnings. We want to give a big shout out to Tyson and Gunnar for joining us this past week. You guys get access to bonus content that we put out, including the new bonus episode of this podcast that we'll be releasing later on this month. Guys, you can check out all the different perks that we offer to you. They are a lot by, again, visiting patreon.com/dynamicduel. But I'm not going to just leave it up to me to explain to you guys why you should join Patreon. We were lucky enough to have some of our patrons themselves record their reasons why they're patrons for this podcast. So let's hear from them.
Hey guys, Mark's 1684, Marquis here. Just checking in. Patreon, I'm on it because I like to support the people that I rock with. You know, people don't make content for nothing. I understand that. I might skim through some videos every once in a while, but there's only a few sites that I check up on a regular basis. And nowadays I'm listening to the material more than I do take in TV.
And he got cut off right there, but it sounded like he was saying that he listens to podcasts now more than he takes in TV. So that was great to hear from him. Marquis has been a devoted listener to this podcast since the beginning, and we're really grateful for his patronage. So thank you, Marquis, for calling in, and we'll be hearing from more of our patrons throughout the course of this episode. But with that out of the way,
quick to the no prize.
A no prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award we post on social media that we personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, what was the superior trailer from the past week? The Suicide Squad or the Shang-Chi trailer, and why? And we got a lot of great answers. It was really hard to narrow it down to just 4, but we have 3 honorable mentions as well as the no prize winner to list. So let's go ahead and hear their answers. Our first honorable mention goes to Michael Haggerty, who said,
Hey guys, Michael Haggerty here. The trailer that was the best was Suicide Squad. 1, you got to see more Starro. 2, more King Shark. And 3, suicide, 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 suicide. I should add squad at the end. Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad. There's no reason. It's the best. It can't be beat. It's the best. Hands down. Better than the rest. I can't rap. Suicide Squad,
Suicide. I can't do it.
I'm really glad he ended up putting squad at the end of that. As you can see, he is really excited about the Suicide Squad movie coming out.
Yeah, as am I. And what more reason do you need other than the fact it's the Suicide Squad? I mean, yeah, the first movie wasn't that great, but that doesn't mean the concept was bad. The concept is really cool, and with someone like James Gunn behind the wheel of this new film, it looks like it's just going to deliver on all fronts in a way that Shang-Chi isn't going to because it doesn't have James Gunn.
Oh, it has so much more, my friend. So much more.
Name the director of Shang-Chi.
Destin Daniel Cretton.
Oh, you had to look it up.
No, I didn't.
Exactly. Yeah, you did. Don't lie.
Great answer, Michael Haggerty. Love the enthusiasm. Our next honorable mention goes to Mitch Woodward, who said,
Hey guys, Mitch Woodward here. I think hands down it's the Shang-Chi trailer, mainly because of what you guys touched on. Abomination showing up in that tournament looking thing. Very cool. And don't be surprised if you see Bobby show up in that tournament. He's been training, and Mr. Pym and I outfitted him with a big fat propane blaster attached to his rear end.
what the hell?
Damn it, Bobby.
Love the Hank Hill impression. It was pretty solid. Bobby Hill would absolutely get his ass kicked going up against Wong or the Abomination, so I don't think that's a good idea for him to go into the ring. But yeah, that whole cage match sequence, even though it was only shown for like a second within the trailer, implied so much potential for the Shang-Chi movie, considering that we've heard rumors that other Marvel characters will be appearing, not just Wong and Abomination. So that's really exciting.
I do feel like that anytime anyone talks about the Shang-Chi trailer, they mostly just touch on how cool it was to see 2 seconds of Abomination. And I'm like, come on. Like, your enjoyment of the trailer can't just hinge on those 2 seconds.
Oh, yes, it can. Of course, there was still plenty more to enjoy from the trailer, as stated by our next honorable mention, CJ Kraft, who said,
Hey guys, CJ Kraft here, and I think Shang-Chi had the better movie trailer just because I'm really amped to see some hand-to-hand martial arts action. Plus, I never thought I'd be able to say that there'd be a Shang-Chi movie, so that's pretty insane to think about. But then again, it's pretty insane to think that there's going to be Starro in a DC movie too. Great time to be alive and be a comic book fan for sure. Keep up the great work, guys. Love the podcast.
Thanks, CJ. Yeah, it is a fantastic time to be alive right now as both a Marvel fan, maybe not so much as a DC fan because the movies aren't as good, but definitely
What?
a Marvel fan. I never would have thought that we would have got a Shang-Chi movie, and the fact that not only are we getting one, but it looks as exciting as this, as shown by the Shang-Chi trailer, I'm just thrilled.
And honestly, the martial arts action is what I'm looking forward to probably the most from the Shang-Chi movie. Ever since we saw some of that in the first trailer, I was pumped for the film.
Yeah, as we mentioned on the show before, I hope that the fighting lives up to the spectacular martial arts action that we've gotten from the old Kung Fu classics like Fist of Fury or Drunken Master or something like that. Even the newer classics like The Raid or something like that. I want it to wow me with the fight choreography. That is its first job. It has to do that above all else. Before we name the winner of this week's Snow Prize, we want to give a shout out to everybody who was generous enough to go onto our website and lend their time to record an answer for our question of the week. So thanks to Dash, Mickey Matangian, John Starosky, Tyson Lee, and Zach Hepburn. Thank you guys so much for your answers. But the winner of this week's Snow Prize goes to Eli Morehouse, who said,
I personally think that the Suicide Squad trailer was not superior to the Shang-Chi trailer because it showed us stuff that we already knew about and frankly wasn't that interesting compared to seeing the huge reveal of Abomination in the Shang-Chi trailer.
and way to go, Eli, for telling it like it is. That's right. The reason the Shang-Chi trailer was better than the Suicide Squad trailer is because it introduced us to new concepts. The Suicide Squad trailer, while the movie should be fun, we've already seen several trailers for that movie, and so there wasn't anything particularly new, exciting, or revealing. As a matter of fact, I actually thought this latest Suicide Squad trailer was probably the lesser of all the trailers that we've seen, whereas the Shang-Chi trailer was actually better than the teaser we had previously.
And it's hard to disagree with that. I felt a lot more excited about the Suicide Squad trailer that came out prior to this one, where we got our first look at Starro. And they were like, we got a kaiju up in here. That was awesome. Seeing more of Starro and just, having crass humor didn't really excite me any more than I had already been. And we talked about that in our last episode.
So basically you're saying Marvel is better.
No, I don't remember saying that.
It's okay, we all heard it.
I'm saying the Marvel trailer had something new to present. The movie is not going to be as good, but this trailer was maybe better, I guess.
I get what you're putting out there. I get you.
Oh, gosh.
congrats again to Eli Morehouse for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week. And before we get into the news, let's hear from another one of our patrons, John Starosky, on why you should join up on Patreon.
I decided to become a patron because the content that these two provide is unique in the sense that they can review things objectively. A lot of people are subjective to allegiances, Marvel and DC, etc. But these two, when it comes to movie reviews and opinions, they are strong-minded, but they are definitely objective, and that's super important in this kind of genre.
Thanks, John. Yeah, great to hear why you guys love the podcast. Some people may join Patreon not for the perks themselves, but just because they want to support the show, which is always nice, always fantastic. We super appreciate it. And now that that's done,
On to the...
Jesus.
Sorry. I'm dying, guys. Join our Patreon.
All right, so this past week, we got our first look at some of the toys that will be coming out for the upcoming Spider-Man No Way Home film that will be released in December. We've heard a lot of rumors about the upcoming movie, including that it's going to address the multiverse. You know, it's been confirmed that we're going to see, Jamie Foxx's Electro in it and Alfred Molina's Dr. Octopus. And we've heard reports that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire will also be joining the film.
But not only that, like, Doctor Strange is going to be in the film. Charlie Cox, who played Matt Murdock in the Netflix Daredevil television series, was seen on set. It's going to be a jam-packed film.
But we still don't know what to expect. So we're kind of like grabbing at any kind of morsel that might give us a hint regarding what's to come. These suits kind of give us our first glimpse. If you guys have looked at the photos, there are a couple new suits that will be introduced in this movie that we'll get to see. Of course, we've had several suits in each of the MCU Spider-Man films. In the first movie, there was his homemade costume with the goggles, as well as the Tony Stark designed costume that had like the web glider and all the gadgets. It was really well done. I like that suit a lot. In the second movie, not only did we get that costume, we also got the Night Monkey suit, which was his all-black stealth suit, and we also got the suit that Peter Parker designed at the end of the film, which was red and black, but still largely reminiscent of his Tony Stark designed suit.
I'm surprised that he's keeping with the red and black costume. For some reason, I thought that he was going to be switching to his like default red and blue, but apparently not. I do like the red and black because I've never really been a big fan of Spider-Man's costume in general. But there is something to be said about seeing him in his classic duds that just inspires a bit of nostalgia.
Yeah, I was really hoping that we would see him back in his classic duds for this movie, considering that if he is being joined by the other two Spider-Men, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and they're wearing their classic duds, it would have been cool to have that kind of uniformity amongst the group. The new costume that we see for this movie is largely reminiscent of the Iron Spider. Now, it doesn't look metallic, according to these drawings, like the Iron Spider suit was, so it's not armored, but it does have the large gold spider emblem across his entire body that go up around his shoulders, and he has what looks like gold web shooter gauntlets on his wrists.
It's like a mixture between the Ben O'Reilly suit that was Iron Man inspired.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit surprised to see this suit, considering I thought we were kind of over the Iron Spider thing once Endgame ended. So it's interesting to see him revert back to this type of suit now that, Tony Stark is out of the picture.
What's really interesting about the suit is that in the Funko Pop version, he's shooting like a magic web, like a web that's coming from a magic sigil, the kind that Doctor Strange creates when he's using his magic powers.
Yeah, that's interesting. Not only do we see like a magic sigil near his web hand, there's also a magic sigil around his chest, and it's gold colored and it has a sort of spiderweb motif within it, which looks really damn cool. It's possible that this particular suit is a magic suit imbued with magic energy from Doctor Strange, which allows him to perhaps, travel through dimensions or something like that.
And I hate it. Like,
Why?
Spider-Man should not have magic powers. I mean, it's cool that both he and Doctor Strange make the same kind of, like, hand symbol whenever they use their powers or whatever, but when in the comics has Spider-Man ever had magic powers?
Well, he's teamed up with Doctor Strange a lot in the comics, all the way back from the Ditko era. So I really like this. As a matter of fact, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange have probably teamed up more than Spider-Man and Iron Man. So to me, this totally makes sense, and I totally think it works.
You like magic webbing?
I like the concept of magic webbing. We'll see how it's implemented. Obviously, he's not going to have magic powers forever just for this particular adventure or a piece of this particular adventure, but I like that kind of exploration. Spider-Man has always been a character who has gone through various looks throughout the years. You know, we all prefer the classic duds, but from time to time, he has to take on something new. And there's no exception here. The other new costume that we're getting is an all-black costume with gold webbing, which I really don't like. I don't like this costume in particular because I think if you're going to introduce the black costume, it should be with Venom, you know, and yeah, they had the stealth costume in Far From Home, but that wasn't the same thing. This is like a legit black Spider-Man costume with webbing and everything, but it's not tied in any way to Venom.
Right, so when we do get a Venom suit, it's not going to be as special.
Yeah.
It also reminds me a lot of Killmonger.
Yeah, I could totally see that because Killmonger, of course, he had the Black Panther suit that had the gold trim as well. So yeah, it definitely looks a little reminiscent of that. Apparently it's called the integrated suit, and on the Funko Pop of this particular costume, you can see these like integrated circuits on his wrists. So it seems to be very tech-based. It's also very reminiscent of the type of suit that he wore in the Spider-Man video game to go up against Doc Ock. It was an anti-Ock suit, essentially, and it was heavily armored. And according to the box art for this suit, it also looks like this black one is also armored as well. So he may be wearing this specifically to fight against Alfred Molina's Doc Ock character. That's just a theory.
I do have to wonder if these new costumes, because we have 3 costumes total. The one he had at the end of Far From Home, and then we have the magic one, and then we have the black one, right? So I wonder, since we have 3 costumes and potentially 3 different Spider-Men, if each of those suits belongs to the different Spider-Man.
That's a theory. It's not out of the realm of possibility for sure. I would love to see that, honestly. I think that would be really cool. But here's to speculating as to what's to come. But as always, we're not going to get our hopes up too high for any particular theory, and we're going to manage our expectations.
The black suit Spider-Man is proof that Venom is coming to the MCU.
Yeah, I heard that one too. We'll see what happens, guys. But in regards to Spider-Man's costume, that brings us to our question of the week. What was your favorite live-action Spider-Man costume, and why? And this encompasses the Tobey Maguire films, the Andrew Garfield films, and the Tom Holland films. So we want to hear from you guys. Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message can be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media. Be sure to answer before June 10th. And I think that does it for all the news for this episode. But before we get into our main event, we're going to go ahead and hear from Zach Hepburn as to why he's a patron of ours.
Hey guys, Zach Hepburn here. And I have to say, I love this podcast. I listen to it as soon as it drops, like every week, right? Great conversation, great debates on the Discord. Everybody's friendly with each other, Marvel and DC people alike, That's pretty much why I stay as a patron. It's just great. Best podcast.
Thanks, Zach. We appreciate those kind words, and we appreciate you being a patron. Again, guys, if you want to be a patron, visit patreon.com/dynamicduel. But now, let's go ahead and find out who would win in a fight between the DC villain Prometheus and the Marvel villain Taskmaster. Okay, Prometheus versus Taskmaster. Now, these two guys, if nothing else, have really damn cool looks to them. If you've never seen Taskmaster before in the comics, I'm sure you guys have seen what he's going to look like in the upcoming Black Widow movie. But in the comics, he looks a little bit more medieval because he carries a sword and a shield, and he has this skull mask.
And the hood?
Yeah, and the hood. It looks really cool. And Prometheus kind of looks like a futuristic take on that. Now, he doesn't have like the skull face or anything like that, but he does have this like medieval knight's helmet done in a futuristic way. So these guys would look cool going up against each other no matter what, but fortunately for us, they also have very comparable abilities. Neither of them are really superpowered, but like I said earlier, they have the ability to acquire new fighting skills during the course of a battle. Taskmaster, through the use of his photographic reflexes, which lets him duplicate any physical feat that he sees. And then there's Prometheus, who wears a cybernetic helmet that lets him download data into his brain. Kind of like, say, the Matrix movie, if you've seen that. The way Keanu Reeves learned Kung Fu in that movie was that it was downloaded into him.
Yeah, exactly.
So both of these guys during the course of battle will be receiving data fed into their brains, and we'll see how they utilize that against each other and what the fight would look like. I'm really excited about this match. If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using their statistics. Now, a Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling. In our case, it randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters we use are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception in order to create a more complete and robust simulation. Running these 1,000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, considering that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Comics have shown that there's always a way for Batman to defeat Superman, and we feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories. We use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, Jonathan and I are both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, and instead of debating these matches forever, we just let the math decide for us. So there's no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats. Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1,000 simulations we run would play out beat for beat. I think it's my turn to go first with the Marvel character's history and abilities, so let me tell you all about Taskmaster. Now, Taskmaster, aka Anthony Masters, was born in the Bronx in New York City to unknown parents. As a young child, he was able to perfectly mimic the actions of others, such as the lasso tricks from a cowboy on TV or the hook shot of a professional basketball player. His ability occasionally landed him in danger, such as when he performed a 10-point Olympic dive at his neighborhood pool before even learning how to swim. Anthony's mom had him examined by psychiatrists who named his physical type of memory as photographic reflexes. Though it's not deemed a mutant power or even necessarily a superpower, it did allow Anthony to become an exceptional athlete growing up, becoming his high school star quarterback after watching a pro football game. As an adult, Anthony joined S.H.I.E.L.D., his athletic skills making him an ideal fit as a field agent and spy. He married his partner, Agent Mercedes, and began studying archival footage of costumed heroes and villains to increase his combat repertoire, including the shield-throwing abilities of Captain America, the archery skills of Hawkeye, and the sword-fighting skills of the Black Knight. Over time, however, since his brain could not retain so much data, Anthony began losing personal memories about his life while gaining new physical skills. Eventually, he forgot much about his past and even forgot that Mercedes was his wife. With Anthony no longer knowing who he was due to his new fighting knowledge overriding his memories, the spurned Mercedes and S.H.I.E.L.D. decided to use Anthony within the supervillain community by making him an unwitting double agent. Outfitting him with a costume and the call sign Taskmaster, Anthony became a mercenary for hire and combat instructor for aspiring criminals, unknowingly feeding intelligence to S.H.I.E.L.D. and forgetting his history with them. After a time, S.H.I.E.L.D. lost their trace on Anthony's whereabouts, and his underground dealings grew.
Oh, dang, that sucks.
The Avengers later became aware of one of Taskmaster's criminal academies and went to shut it down. Anthony successfully held his own against Captain America and Iron Man, but his unfamiliarity with the Avengers' robotic assistant Jocasta and her unpredictable body language caused him to flee the encounter. After re-establishing his academy and taking on mercenary jobs, Anthony battled with other heroes, including Spider-Man, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man. Eventually, the Fantastic Four hero The Thing and telekinetic mutant Justice were able to apprehend Taskmaster and bring him into U.S. Secret Service authorities. They offered Anthony years off his sentencing if he trained John Walker in Captain America's fighting style in preparation for him to become the government hero U.S. Agent. After training U.S. Agent, Anthony escaped his detention facility. He reopened his academy and clashed with more heroes such as Daredevil, Punisher, Moon Knight, and Black Widow. Despite these confrontations, the heroes could never catch Anthony, and he successfully trained notable characters such as Crossbones, Diamondback, Spider-Woman, and Agent X. The government later recruited Anthony to help take down Captain America's team during the Superhuman Civil War, during which the Invisible Woman nearly killed him after he tried to shoot her in the battle. Incarcerated in the Negative Zone prison, S.H.I.E.L.D. offered Anthony a full presidential pardon to test the security of the new S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. After that, authorities set Anthony up with another contract to train new government-sanctioned heroes at the Camp Hammond military base alongside fellow merc Batroc the Leaper, whom you can learn more about in our duel with him against Wildcat. However, Anthony despised working for director Norman Osborn, and later teamed up with rival mercenary Deadpool, who hired Anthony to pose as him in a plot to take down Osborn's Thunderbolts team. Deadpool had to pay him via ATM.
Can't you only pull out like $200 from an ATM?
At any time, yeah, I think so. After abandoning his government contract, rumors about Anthony being a S.H.I.E.L.D. mole swirled around the supervillain community and led to a $1 billion bounty placed on his head. Fleeing hordes of Hydra, AIM, and scores of other bad guys seeking to cash in, Anthony learned about his actual past with S.H.I.E.L.D. and his former wife, Mercedes. Shocked by this revelation, he unfortunately forgot it when he acquired new fighting skills from a villain called Redshirt while fighting against him to protect Mercedes. A young Avengers Academy member called Finesse later approached Anthony, believing he was her birth father, a claim he could neither confirm nor deny. But they sparred against each other so that Anthony would never forget her regardless. After being captured while on assignment in the small lawless country of Begalia, Anthony ended up escaping and setting up his base of operations there. He then witnessed and recorded Captain America, who was in Begalia at the time, declaring his allegiance to Hydra. The sentient cosmic cube Kobik had rewritten Cap's past to make him a Hydra sleeper agent, which you can learn more about in our Commander Steel vs. Captain America Duel episode. Shocked but opportunistic, Anthony tried to sell the recorded evidence of evil Hydra Cap to S.H.I.E.L.D., but was intercepted by Madam Hydra, who forced him to serve as her bodyguard. Anthony switched sides from S.H.I.E.L.D. to the Resistance during the final battle, though, and rescued the new Champions superhero team in the process. Later, Kraven the Hunter hired Anthony to track and capture animal-themed villains and heroes so that Kraven could hunt them on his private island. And recently, in the comics, Anthony became the leader of the new Thunderbolts team formed by New York City Mayor Wilson Fisk. It should be noted that though he can't remember Mercedes, she still maintains S.H.I.E.L.D.'s records on him and keeps tabs as a sort of surrogate memory for him. And that's Taskmaster's history. Abilities-wise, Taskmaster has photographic reflexes, meaning he can remember and mimic any physical action he witnesses using his muscle memory. This is helpful in not only allowing him to duplicate fighting styles, weapon skills, and athletic skills of the various heroes and villains he's seen in action, but it also allows him to accurately predict his opponent's actions before they're made. He is a complete master of every single form of martial arts known to man, a perfect marksman with ranged weaponry, including bows and arrows and throwing object, similar to Bullseye. He carries a variety of weapons, including a sword, a circular shield, a bow and quiver of arrows, billy clubs, a lasso, ninja stars, and a taser gun, though he prefers to take his opponents down via hand-to-hand combat. His ability does have the negative side effect of making him forget his own personal experiences, so while he can remember the things he can do, he often forgets the things he has done. It should also be noted that while he can perfectly duplicate anything he sees, his body is not physically superhuman, so while it's easy for him to perform feats at the peak of human physicality, he cannot do anything that would classify as superhuman.
You know, Taskmaster is a pretty popular character. I've seen a lot of Marvel fans say how cool they thought he was. I didn't really know much about the character, but he is a pretty cool character.
Yeah, he has a great backstory. The whole limitation with the memory loss thing is a great kind of facet that was introduced later on in his history, but one that makes him all the more compelling, I think.
He's definitely a tragic character in that he started off good, but, you know, through no fault of his own, he just kind of went bad.
Yeah, and you know, he's performed heroic feats throughout his career as a mercenary, but yeah, it was really S.H.I.E.L.D.'s handling of him, you know, that set him up with this whole Taskmaster identity. It kind of reminded me of the movie Memento.
Yeah, same here. That's cool. But not as cool as Prometheus, I'm afraid.
Okay, we'll see.
Let me tell you all about Prometheus. Let's see if I could actually get through this.
You got this.
The real name of the man known as Prometheus is unknown. He's let it be known, however, that he was the son of two loving, thieving, murderous hippies who were eventually caught and gunned down by police. Prometheus witnessed his parents' death at the hands of the police, and his hair turned white from the shock. He escaped police custody that same night and swore an oath to dedicate his life to annihilating forces of justice as a revenge for his parents. He amassed a large fortune from his parents' hidden caches of money and by anonymously extorting mob bosses using his knowledge of their activities. At the age of 16, he began traveling the world, training himself in multiple martial arts forms while also studying at the most elite academic institutions and eventually becoming both a mercenary and terrorist.
This sounds like the opposite of Batman.
It is, yeah, exactly. He eventually found within the Himalayas the hidden city of Shambhala, inhabited by an order of monks that worshipped the concept of evil. Over time, he became a favorite of the order's leader, who revealed to Prometheus that he was an alien, and that Shambhala was built on top of a crashed spaceship. To prove himself, Prometheus was challenged to kill the leader, which he succeeded in doing, earning for himself a cosmic key to the Phantom Zone, or the Ghost Zone as he called, from which the leader had escaped. Upon returning to America, Prometheus killed all of the police officers involved in his parents' death, along with their families, leaving just one police officer alive to burden the pain and guilt of the others. It wasn't long before his eyes turned to the Justice League as his next target, who you can learn more about in our Justice League vs. Avengers Duel episode. He set up a headquarters for himself within the Phantom Zone, where he collected advanced technology and built a suit for himself that included a special helmet that allowed him to collect data and download it into his brain. In his first attack on the League, Prometheus killed a man who won a contest to visit the Justice League's moon-based headquarters and assumed his identity. While inside, Prometheus systematically took down the entire Justice League, including defeating Batman in a fight. The headquarters was full of touring civilians at the time, and Prometheus held them hostage unless Superman committed suicide. However, it was the hero Steel, who you can learn more about in our Steel vs. War Machine episode, that managed to stop Prometheus' attack by overriding his helmet once he neutralized the computer virus Prometheus uploaded into his armor. Prometheus ditched the helmet and escaped back to Earth along with the rest of the touring civilians. In Prometheus' next attack on the League, he teamed up with Lex Luthor and his Injustice gang. Prometheus found an abandoned white Martian vessel within the Phantom Zone and used it to infiltrate the League's new satellite watchtower headquarters. There, he found the League's mission coordinator, Oracle, aka Barbara Gordon, and offered to help her walk again in exchange for betraying the League. When she refused, he attacked her, though she was able to damage his helmet in the process. After retrieving his original helmet from the League's vault, Prometheus was presented with a rematch against Batman, only for Batman to reveal that he replaced the fighting skills stored within Prometheus' helmet with the physical ability of Dr. Stephen Hawking. Unable to move, Prometheus was nearly killed by Huntress, but she was stopped by Batman. Knowing Prometheus would be able to escape any prison they placed him in, Batman uploaded a loop of Prometheus' memories into his helmet, trapping him inside his own mind, and he was taken to Blackgate Prison, where he was abused by prison guards due to him being unaware of his surroundings. Another man named Chad Graham used Prometheus' equipment and name for a time until a supervillain coalition known as the Society helped Prometheus escape Blackgate, at which point he killed the prison guards and Chad Graham, taking back his equipment. Seeking revenge against the Justice League for the years spent trapped in his own mind, he began systematically killing low-level superheroes around the world, including Freedom Beast, Gloss, Tasmanian Devil, and Sandstorm. After gaining access to the League's Watchtower headquarters once again, this time by impersonating Freddie Freeman, the alter ego of Shazam Jr., Prometheus downloaded all of the satellite's data on the Justice League and Teen Titans members, after which he used the satellite to teleport devices into numerous cities around America capable of destroying them. After single-handedly defeating both the Justice League and the Teen Titans simultaneously, he was eventually defeated by Donna Troy, who you can learn more about in our Donna Troy vs. She-Hulk episode. Prometheus offered to reveal the location of the devices if the heroes let him go, just as one of them went off and destroyed Star City, the home of Green Arrow, killing millions, including the daughter of Green Arrow's protege, Roy Harper. To save lives, the League agreed to his terms and let Prometheus go. Green Arrow, however, found where Prometheus' lair was and ambushed him, putting an arrow through Prometheus' head, killing him. In post-Flashpoint continuity, Prometheus was primarily a villain of the Wildstorm character Midnighter, a Batman analog of sorts, from whom Prometheus downloaded all of his skills from. Now, Prometheus has no innate superhuman abilities, though he does have a genius-level intellect boosted by a helmet that allows him to analyze, collect, and download data into his brain, including the fighting styles of the world's 30 best fighters, among them Batman and Lady Shiva. The helmet also allows him the ability to develop strategies rapidly against his opponents, allowing him to take down entire teams of opponents, such as the Justice League and Teen Titans, simultaneously. He wears body armor that not only increases his durability, strength, speed, and reaction time to just above peak human, but it also injects endorphins into his body so that he's unable to feel pain. Light projectors are located throughout the armor, allowing him to emit strobes that can disorient or hypnotize opponents, and they can project energy shields or holograms, allowing him to disguise his appearance or create illusions. From his gauntlets, he can fire an array of projectiles, including bullets, energy blades, small rockets, and paralyzing darts. He also carries a nightstick that can shock opponents and also interface with any type of technology, as well as a cosmic key that allows him to teleport himself or others to the Phantom Zone. And that's Prometheus.
He has quite the arsenal there.
Yeah.
Too bad none of it's going to help him when he goes up against Taskmaster and Taskmaster is able to read all his moves. So I guess in this speculation, Taskmaster is also going to gain the fighting skill of Batman and Lady Shiva, in addition to the fighting skills of like Captain America and Spider-Man, which he already knows. It's going to be dope.
The DC guys are way better fighters than the Marvel guys.
No, they're not. We've already established this.
No, we haven't.
Now that we've got their histories and abilities out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not this speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out. We don't set any rules for this match, other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And we say they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself, because we don't take stats for the environment. Plus, certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. But before we speculate, let's go ahead and hear from one of our patrons, Miggy Metangian, about why he chose to become a patron.
Hey guys, this is Miggy, and I've been listening to this podcast for about 2 years now. I love the fun fight speculations, the thorough character breakdowns, in-depth news analysis, and objective reviews. I joined their Patreon for access to their special duels, but the best part is the Discord server where a great community just messes around and has fun.
And thanks for that testimonial, Miggy. You're by far one of the reasons that the Discord server is so much fun. Love chatting with you. Love chatting with all of our patrons. And guys, you could chat with us on Discord if you sign up for Patreon using the link in our show notes. But let's go ahead and get into the speculation now. The characters meet on the battlefield. Who goes first?
I feel like Taskmaster is a little bit more reactionary just based on his abilities, so I think Prometheus would go first.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He's going to rush forward and just fire from his gauntlets just a hail of bullets using the shooting accuracy of Deadshot. So these things are on point.
Well, Taskmaster is going to use the blocking accuracy of Captain America with his shield. So he's going to block the bullets that are being fired at him from Prometheus, and then he's going to hurl the shield, just like Captain America would, right into Prometheus as he's running toward him.
Is blocking accuracy a thing?
Sure, yeah, of course it is. Shield defense skills.
Okay, well, Prometheus, he's just going to flip over that shield and just catch it in midair, and then he wields it and pulls out his nightstick. And he just attacks Taskmaster using Wonder Woman's, like, weapon and shield techniques.
Also Wonder Woman's fighting style, but with a baton instead of a sword.
Yeah.
Well, Taskmaster's sword is like this big, like, claymore thing, so he could use it defensively, and he's going to use the Black Knight's sword fighting skills to counter Prometheus's baton. And as they're fighting, he's going to be observing Prometheus's fighting style and then adapt to it to even better defend himself. And he's going to learn Prometheus's fighting style so well that he's going to get the advantage and just slice Prometheus right in the side with his sword.
Okay, but Prometheus, he doesn't feel it because he doesn't feel pain. He's just going to switch it up. He's going to download the shield-wielding and fighting ability of a hero known as the Guardian. He's essentially DC's Captain America.
Okay.
And that's just going to throw Taskmaster off of his game, all right?
Okay.
And Prometheus is just going to take his shield and just slam it right into Taskmaster, just knocking him down to the ground.
Okay, but Taskmaster is used to getting hit by shields, so he knows how to roll with it. He gets knocked to the ground, but he rolls back, and like an expert, like Hawkeye, like in the span of a second, he pulls out his bow and notches an arrow and fires an explosive arrow right at Prometheus.
It doesn't matter how fast Taskmaster does this. Like, Prometheus's advanced alien technology helmet analyzes this whole thing, and he uses his advanced reflexes to shoot the arrow out of the air with his own explosive dart fired from his gauntlet.
Okay, but before the dust even settles from this explosion, Taskmaster is going to use his lasso to wrap around Prometheus's arm holding his shield, and he's going to yank Prometheus to the ground, causing him to drop that shield. And it's going to roll over to Taskmaster, and he's going to pick it back up. So he has his shield back.
Okay, Prometheus, he's going to get out of that lasso, though, by generating an energy blade from his gauntlet, and he's going to free himself up by cutting the rope. And he's going to follow up with a series of strobes from his suit to disorient and hypnotize Taskmaster.
Okay, so Taskmaster's going to see like this light show that Prometheus is putting on, and he's going to realize what's happening through his analytical observation. So he's going to close his eyes and open the rest of his senses and use the blind fighting style of Daredevil, combined with the marksmanship skills of Bullseye. And he's going to just throw out a series of ninja stars that systematically knock out the lights on Prometheus's armor.
Yeah, Daredevil has power. That's how he's able to fight blind. Taskmaster can't duplicate the radar sense.
No, but he can emulate it as best as he can. He used that particular fighting style when he got into a fight with Elektra, and for a second, Elektra thought Taskmaster was Daredevil. So yeah, Taskmaster can't hear for miles or have a radar sense or anything like that, but he can still sense, and his visual memory is good enough so that he would know where to throw these things.
That's ridiculous. Okay, I'm gonna say he gets several lights. Not all of them, because that's BS, but he gets several of them. Because Prometheus, he's gonna pull up an energy shield to protect his suit from the ninja stars.
Okay, yeah. Well, Taskmaster is then going to pull out this magnesium flare, which he has. He uses flares on occasion to kind of cover his escape. And he's going to light the flare, and then he's going to use his hand to cover the light and reveal the light to kind of recreate the strobing effect that he witnessed from Prometheus's armor.
What?
Yeah, he memorized it, and he's going to use that against him to disorient Prometheus. And with Prometheus all dazed from this weird light effect, Taskmaster is going to rush in, and then he's going to use the strikes of Shang-Chi's fighting style to knock Prometheus down unconscious, just hitting all these nerve points.
That was not a bad move. I did not see that coming. That was good. Okay, so Prometheus gets knocked down, he's unconscious, but his helmet is going to have a failsafe that wakes him up. And so as Taskmaster is coming in to deliver a killing blow, Prometheus just breaks one of Taskmaster's kneecaps with his nightstick. Yeah, this thing's strong. Like, this thing can shatter boulders. And then he gets back up on his feet. And Taskmaster's the one on the ground now.
Yeah, he's probably on the ground in pain. But he has probably seen Forge in action, who is a Marvel hero with one leg. So he can kind of call on that to pick himself up off the ground. And I bet you he also knows one-legged kung fu. So he's going to get into a stance and do this jump kick that connects with Prometheus's chest, and then he's going to bounce off of him, doing a backflip off of Prometheus and landing back on his one good leg.
One-legged kung fu?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's real. Look it up.
That kick never lands because Taskmaster just kicked a hologram of Prometheus instead of the actual Prometheus. So
what? When? When was this created?
When Taskmaster was on the ground, reeling in pain from his kneecap. So instead of kicking off of Prometheus, Taskmaster's leg just went right through the illusion, and he just lands on his own ass. And while he's on the ground, the real Prometheus, he's just gonna start pummeling him Nightwing style with his charged up nightstick.
Okay, so Taskmaster is getting beat, but he's protecting himself with his own billy clubs. Daredevil style, using his billy clubs. And if Barbara Gordon, Oracle can do this in a wheelchair, then Taskmaster can definitely do it from the ground with one leg. He's going to defend himself from Prometheus' attack, adapt to it, and then just smash Prometheus' helmet, breaking it and shutting it down. And Prometheus is like, oh no, what's happening? Oh, I got to take this helmet off. And then as soon as Prometheus removes his helmet because it's damaged, he's going to get tased in the face with a charge from Taskmaster's taser gun.
I guess Prometheus would take his helmet off if it was broken badly.
Yeah, and as Prometheus is stunned, Taskmaster is going to pull out a sword and just freaking decapitate him, ending the match.
I mean, Prometheus, his suit is still blocking the pain. Like, he doesn't need his helmet for that. You know, so he's gonna manage to shrug off the electric tasing, and he pulls out his cosmic key, and he just banishes Taskmaster to the ghost zone before he even gets close enough to decapitating him. And that's how this match ends.
Nah, bro, he's tased. It doesn't matter if he feels the pain of the tase, his body's still going to react to it by him getting stunned.
I think he could have managed to reach into his pocket and grab that key.
Well, I think Prometheus gets his head chopped off, so either that happens or Taskmaster gets banished to the Phantom Zone. We'll find out which scenario actually takes place after we run the stats and find out who the actual winner of this matchup would be. Be right back. That was pretty fun. It was cool to see like all these other Marvel characters and DC characters kind of make an appearance of sorts within this battle when each character kind of called upon their abilities. I think that's the whole appeal of this entire match.
Yeah, we almost got like a Nightwing versus Daredevil rematch in here.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Or Batman versus Captain America. There's a lot of different combinations that we could have done here, and it would have been really cool to see this match play out like in the comics or something. But these guys had pretty comparable stats. They're both about as fast and strong and versatile as each other. They're both exceptional fighters. You know, they're about as good as you could get considering all the fighting knowledge that they have. There were a few stats where they deferred, namely evasiveness, where we said that Prometheus, with his energy force fields, was actually able to mount a better defense against oncoming attacks.
Yeah, and his holograms.
Which he can use to kind of confuse his opponent. Because of the nature of Prometheus's helmet, which can download data more than just, like physical combat data, Prometheus can download any information into his brain. Right. And he doesn't have the detriment of memory loss when he does that. So we gave him the advantage in intellect. But perception-wise, these guys were about equal.
Which sounds about right. That's what these characters are known for.
Yeah, Taskmaster analyzes and mimics, whereas Prometheus, analyzes, downloads that information, and can also mimic. So for all intents and purposes, pretty comparable. So with all that said, who do you think is going to win this match?
Well, I do have to say that I disagree with our social media followers, 63% of whom chose Taskmaster to take this. Total popularity contest.
Yeah, nobody knows who Prometheus is.
That's kind of fair. I mean, he was the main villain for an entire season of the Arrow TV series, but
really?
That character was way different.
Oh, so he made his live-action debut before Taskmaster will in the Black Widow film.
Yeah.
Interesting. You want to know who the winner is?
Do you? I think I'm pretty sure I already know who won.
Well, let's see if you're right. Because the winner between Prometheus and Taskmaster is...
You're just going to make us wait? Because you don't like the result?
No, I'm just pulling up Jacob Bell's testimonial, who is one of our patrons, who's going to let you guys know why he chose to support the show.
Hey guys, this is Jacob Bell. I'm a Patreon because this is definitely my favorite podcast. I've been listening to it for 3 years, and when I first got into college, I was commuting about 40 minutes every day, and the major that I was doing was not really what I wanted. After a few weeks, I figured that out, and it was just pretty tough for me, but this podcast really helped me in a lot of ways, and so becoming a Patreon was a no-brainer.
Thanks, Jacob Bell, for the kind words and for supporting this show. But let's go ahead and give you the results for this match. The winner is Prometheus.
DC wins again. Even though I'm sick, I'm doing my happy dance.
You don't sound sick.
Watch me sing my happy dance. That doesn't make sense.
Prometheus won 602 battles out of the 1,000 matches, whereas Taskmaster only won 398.
Are you surprised?
I am very surprised. In the end, they were very comparable to each other, but Prometheus did have some advantages through his technology. So basically, it's another case of DC making their characters overpowered compared to Marvel, who prefers to make their characters more interesting. So I don't consider this a huge loss for Marvel.
Prometheus is plenty interesting.
No, he's not. He's lame as shit. I don't even remember what you said about him in the bio.
I'm not surprised. Prometheus was totally going to win. He takes on entire groups of super teams, at the same time.
So does Taskmaster.
Okay. I don't remember that in his bio, because I already forgot it too.
No, you didn't. It's a beautiful, tragic story. And I'm kind of interested to see how much of that story they'll keep when he makes his debut in the Black Widow movie, coming out this week, guys. If you don't have your tickets already, make sure you have your tickets, because we're going to be talking about the movie in our next episode, which is the Black Widow review. And it'll be a big episode because we will find out whether or not we reach our goal of hitting 100 patrons or not. If we do, That'll be amazing. It'll be the best day ever. Again, we only need a small percentage of you guys to actually sign up. But if we don't hit the goal, then we'll be announcing the show's movement behind a paywall, and we'll be giving you guys all the information on how you might be able to access the show through the varying paid platforms. But that does it for this duel, so let us know what you thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com. So glad that we got to record this episode. We didn't have to skip it because yesterday Jonathan was actually doing pretty bad. He had a high fever. But thanks for, kind of sucking it up and pushing through for this episode. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it. It's a lot of fun. Was really looking forward to this match, and it didn't disappoint. So
I'm pretty disappointed. But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, Ken Johnson, Jace Crump, John Starosky, John Speas, Zachary Hepburn, John Bechinina, and Stephen Lovato for helping make this podcast possible. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
up and away.
True believers.